Here's a list I put together with the charity that I'm part of, Center for Nonviolence and Conscious Living, of actual specific actions we can take to help cultivate these kinds of feelings. So it's not just about cultivating internally, like we talked about. It's actually every action we take reinforces our own inner feelings, and our own inner feelings reinforce our actions, right? There's another self-reinforcing circle. Again, just see if you resonate with some. You may not resonate with all of them. You can read them yourself, or I'll go ahead and read them as well. 10 to personal growth and healing. Again, we got to start with ourselves, really. If we're overwhelmed, then how are we going to be able to contribute to the well-being of others? Spend regular time in the outdoors and wilderness, like reacquainting, reconnecting to other species and the earth. Reminding ourselves, what does it feel like to actually be in, a somewhat healthy environment if we can. Not everyone has access to a healthy wilderness nearby, but we can at least take steps in that direction, whether it's, maybe some nearby garden or our own backyard, or cultivating some plants or something like that. Transition to a plant-based diet, just to have less impact on the earth, and B, to just consider trying to cause minimal suffering to other earthlings. Growing our own food if we can. Obviously different privileges that we have around that, but establishing a community garden, a lot of people do if they don't have their own space in their own home. Maybe just even a small little planter box, but again, just reacquainting ourselves, reconnecting to other earthlings, and just the general process of nourishing ourselves, being involved in that whole cycle. Considering my purchases, so I'm kind of putting them all local, organic, cruelty-free, fair trade. So the idea here is consider that every time I spend $1, I'm telling whatever that industry is that I support you to keep doing that. And so that's actually our power. So we can decide, you know what, I don't really want to support that particular practice or industry. I would rather support this one instead. And it might seem trivial, like if it's, $1 here, $1 there, compared to someone with billions of dollars, but there's billions of us. It adds up. And even if it had a very small impact, in the scheme of things, I'm actually cultivating my own love and compassion, because I have to think every time I do a purchase, I don't just do it mindlessly. I go, wait a minute, how is this affecting the other beings? And is that something I want to do? So I'm actually actively cultivating my own awareness, consideration, and compassion of others every time I do that. Considering transportation issues, how can we minimize the impact of that? Transportation, energy, and really big is simplifying our life. And one of the things I think that I see as maybe kind of silver lining here with what's happening now is, I think a lot of us, I've heard from a lot of people, are kind of realizing, maybe I don't need quite as much as I thought. I actually can do pretty well living more simply. So maybe this can be a little bit of a dress rehearsal in some ways for us to just generally live a bit more simply. Supporting humane charities with time or dollars, and understanding just all the vested interests. There's so many vested interests in the media. So not just taking things, including what I'm saying here, just take everything with a big grain of salt, and learn how to actually critically think and look things up. I have a whole page on the website, cncl.info, which I'll share later, devoted to resources for educating ourselves. Now, on a very close line, let's take that a little bit more personally. So first of all, consider what, if anything, on those lists you maybe resonated with you. But let's go a little more personally with this. I'm going to invite you to one more practice. So this is the idea that ultimately, if we're going to develop sustainable behaviors, they need to not only consider the effects of others, but they also have to be connected to my own personal passion. Like, what do I actually enjoy? So take a moment now, inviting you just once again. I'm gonna kind of drop a question into the pool of your inner world, and we'll just see how this lands. So take a moment, tune into your inner world again. You can once again either close your eyes or lower your gaze. And as you connect to your inner world, sensations, feelings, I'm going to drop this little pebble in and just see how it lands. Here it comes. Where does my passion meet the world's needs? Where does my own passion and interests meet the world's needs? And then I'm just going to elaborate on that to support you in this process a little bit. So who or what in this world do I love? Do I feel like a natural love or affinity towards who or what? And what do I find meaningful or beautiful in this world? What personally really tugs at my own heartstrings? Do I love animals, plants, people, children, wild spaces, physical wellness, mental wellness, spiritual wellness, social harmony, equality, personal growth, maybe music, dance, or movement? Fill in the blank. So again, who or what in this world do I love? Do I find meaningful or beautiful? And then furthering this a little bit more, what are ways that I can support this particular cause? And we can take two branches here on this question. What are some just simple steps I can actually take right now? Even really, really simple. One simple step I can take right now that might somehow support this particular cause or further me along somehow towards supporting and nurturing this particular cause. And the other fork, closely related, what are some bigger steps? What are maybe longer term aspirations? Something I can aspire towards in this particular vision. So just kind of following up on that idea, I think it helps. We're talking about behavior change on a personal and collective level, and behavior change can be hard. You know, we are creatures of habit, no doubt about it. And it's not just us. I mean, virtually all living organisms have, they develop habits because they generally work. Here I am, I'm alive, something's kind of must be working, at least, so far. So there's a part of us that wants to maintain the status quo. And it's a little bit like we talked about a dialectic, that there's a part that wants to grow in some way, and there's a part that wants to maintain, the status quo. And they're both actually healthy. What we need to do is develop that synergy between them. So when we're talking about behavior change, I think it can be helpful to go look at the territory, even though it might seem kind of extreme, but addictions or substance dependency or something like that. Because that's something where the behavior has gotten so entrenched and really difficult to change. And what we find when people make, behavior changes that are challenging is the first thing we have to do is we have to forgive ourselves. So consider whatever harm we might have done, remind ourselves that we just are simply doing the best we could with the hand we're dealt and with our awareness and all of that. So forgive, let that go, connect to the needs that the particular behavior was meeting, because all behaviors are attempts to meet needs, everything, even if they seem really harmful, on some level it was an attempt for me to try to meet a need. So, fundamentally, they weren't bad, they were just harmful. So what needs was that particular behavior meeting, and what's a different strategy, a more wholesome strategy that can meet the same need? That's a really helpful thing that we can do for ourselves, or if we work with clients, a particular practice. I spend a lot of time like that as a psychologist doing that work. And then take workable steps. So there's a balance between, on one hand, especially when crisis is big, we have to take some kind of big steps. But if we take them too big and we just overwhelm ourselves, and then we fail, and then we lose heart and we get discouraged, well, that's not going to help, is it? So we have to find that kind of, find the edge. Where's the edges? How far can I push it without it being too far? And remain connected to our values and our commitments with patience and persistence. So, once we establish a particular commitment, it could be something really simple. I'm going to spend, more time in the garden. That's a personal commitment I've made recently. Actually, write it somewhere, make a little bit of a ritual or a big deal out of it. So it's not just the words that I throw out, half-heartedly. And then set some practical steps towards that particular commitment, and know that I'll probably relapse. We often do relapse, and just forgive and carry on. Just pick ourselves up and carry on, right? That's what we know about behavior change. These are kind of the main basic steps. And then when it comes to how do we work with other people, so we get to a point where wow, these behaviors are really harmful. I'm really going to try not to do them myself. But look, these other people are still doing them, and wow, there's so much harm in these particular industries or whatever it might be. So how do we actually manage that outside of myself or ourselves? So first of all, it's about developing the courage to stand in our own truth, which can be really hard because sometimes we often feel like, oh gosh, if I speak my truth here, I might get ostracized. People might judge me. They won't like me. Won't want to be around me. So kind of find the courage, to trust that, hey, this is actually really important to me. I want to stand in my truth. And if certain people don't like that, well, it's a bummer, but so be it. There will be people who will resonate with that, and they'll probably be better friends. And can we challenge the harmful behavior of another person while still loving the person? So I like the analogy of pulling a child's hand back from like a hot stove. Child's getting ready to do something very harmful, but is oblivious, doesn't realize. So you don't get angry at the child. You lovingly grab the hand, pull it back. So in the same way, we want to love the person. Okay, this person doesn't realize they're putting their hand onto a hot stove, or they don't realize the harm they're causing others or whatnot. On some level, they're not connected to it. Maybe they consciously realize it, but their heart doesn't realize it, or whatever it is. On some level, they don't get it. So can I still see the humanity underneath this and the behavior, and love the person and condone the behavior? I'm sorry, and not going to condemn the behavior, and try to actively in some way educate the person, or try to stop that behavior. So this is the idea of nonviolence. And nonviolence philosophy, which ironically emerged from the Parihaka people here in Maori tribe down, I'm drawing a blank, anyway, down south of North Island, Taranaki area. And they responded nonviolently to the colonizers and actually managed to keep their land. I know it was a pretty hard struggle, but they inspired Gandhi and his movement, and Martin Luther King, and a number of other nonviolent people to kind of recognize that if we respond to hatred with our hatred, we respond to violence and hatred with more violence and hatred, we just keep the whole thing going. So then if we really want to move towards a world that where love and compassion and kindness and consideration are more valued, we have to embody that ourselves. And we talk about the protective use of force in nonviolence philosophy. Sometimes there's time where you actually may have to use force to protect, but you're still doing your best to not hate the person, and you're trying to minimize the impact of whatever that force might look like. So I like this quote by nonviolent communication teacher Miki Kashtan. Nonviolence is the chosen mindful approach to life that emerges from standing for love, courage, and truth. So as long as we stay connected to those synergistic feelings and really do our best to cultivate and stay connected, we can sort of trust that our behavior will most likely come from that place, and not actively reinforcing the disintegrating feelings of hatred and greed. And then kind of finally here in this section is, it's really easy, I've been struggling with this a lot. I actually went through quite a bit of despair last year as I was setting up our charity. I was having to, and you can imagine when I was setting up that video and stuff, it's pretty hard to look at this stuff. I was really struggling, and it's hard to feel a lot of hope, at times, optimism. And so I turned Joanna Macy, someone I consider a real, even though I actually never met her in person, she was a teacher at a university I attended. She's someone who really inspires me, and she has this term called active hope. And the idea is, it's sure we look at the future, but we just don't really know, right? We can make forecasts and things, but ultimately the only thing we really have is present moment and my own values. So as long as I stay connected to the present and my values, that's kind of the best I can do, really. So I'll just read your quote. You can read along if you like. Active hope is not wishful thinking. Active hope is not waiting to be rescued by the Lone Ranger or some savior. Active hope is waking up to the beauty of life. Waking up to the beauty of life on whose behalf we can act. You and we all are capable of falling in love with life at the moment when it needs our response. It is a readiness to engage and a readiness to discover the strengths in ourselves and in others. A readiness to discover the reasons for hope and the occasions for love. A readiness to discover the size and strength of our hearts, our quickness of mind, our steadiness of purpose. Ready to discover that again and again. Seeing active hope as a verb, it is something you can do even when you're feeling discouraged. So I'm going to go ahead and just summarize. kind of this whole journey. We're on the hero's journey. We've been into the darkness. We're coming out the other side. We're taking the lessons that we've learned from emergence, from disintegration, and the possibility of a new synergy. And here I'm trying to sort of capture the essence of that we can, at least speaking for myself, hopefully you're resonating with a lot of this. Humankind is veered radically in the direction of disintegration. So that's kind of it's the inconvenient truth, right, of the state of our world. We're become very and notice I put that dash in there because I really want to highlight integration. And we've moved away from an integrated relationship with Earth. We've disintegrated. And crucial to our survival then is a radical reorientation towards synergy. And really we're talking about a phase shift here. Now, there's no going back from where we are, not literally. We can go back in the sense of trying to reestablish place in Gaia, but it's going to have to be forward. So a phase shift to a new synergistic relationship with self, others, and the Earth. And while we can never know what that actually is going to look like, or it hasn't happened yet, synergy is the very definition of emergence, is that entirely new properties show up that didn't exist at all previous to that. And most likely, assuming we make it through this time, that's what we'll find as well. There'll be entirely new properties that we can't even imagine at this point. A phase shift. And compassion, love, and the other synergistic feelings are like our inner compass guiding us towards that synergy. So while we can't know what's coming exactly, what we can know is the qualities that have to get us there, right? Qualities of reconnection, of humility, of going from power over to power with our fellow earthlings, with the Earth. And those feelings on the inside are our compass, towards moving in that direction. And we also know that given our deep conditioning in this culture, it's not easy at all. Like, it's deeply, deeply conditioned stuff here. We have to actively strive to cultivate these synergistic feelings. Some of us more than others. It depends a lot on, the hand we're dealt and all of that. But pretty much virtually all of us, right, in the modern world, in some way, have to strive against that conditioning. And then finally, acting in line with love and compassion for all living beings and living systems will reinforce these synergistic feelings in an ever-strengthening, there's a reinforcing cycle. So we know that behavior, internal feeling and attitude and behavior reinforce each other. And whether we're going towards disintegration or synergy, it's the same principle. So if my behavior is in line with consideration and compassion and kindness towards others, I'm naturally going to cultivate that stronger in myself. And as I get stronger in myself, my behavior is going to manifest that. Around we go. And it becomes kind of exponential loop. So you see this in living systems, like the imaginal cells on the caterpillar. You have a few little imaginal cells. They're very rare. There's only a few of them, and it's huge. Millions upon millions of cells is a handful of imaginal cells. But they have the vision towards moving towards this new synergy. And it just starts with them, and bit by bit they entrain the other cells. The other cells get inspired, you might say. They resonate with the frequency of that, and it becomes an exponent, from a trickle to a flood. And pretty soon all those cells are all on the same page, moving to butterfly. So in the same way, it's most likely how it's going to happen if we're able to succeed in our phase shift with us. It starts with us, people like us who care, becoming imaginal cells in some way, and trusting that, well, at the very least, regardless of where our future actually takes us, if I live in this values-driven and present-centered way, I'm at least going to make the best of my own life, and possibly might inspire other people, and they might inspire other people, and you end up with an exponential growth. Who knows? I don't know, maybe being overly optimistic, but we certainly have a lot of precedents that this kind of thing happens. It's not, it's not a miracle. It seems to be intrinsic to the fabric of life. So last slide, I just want to show you, this is, I'll send you guys this in an email, but the charity I've been involved with. So there's heaps of kind of blog articles and media that I put on there regularly. And I've got resources. I've got that conscious living resolution that I showed you earlier, and I've got tons of resources and things. So you might have fun just having a look through there. I'll send that out in an email. And I want to finish with one final video that I think this video isn't mine. It was developed by Sustainable Human, but I love it. I think it really captures so much of what I'm wanting to share here.
shattered, beyond your ability to reassemble them. May you learn quickly from your failures and successes. May life treat you how you treat life. And may you reap swiftly that which you sow. And may all the hidden parts of yourself enter the light. May all your unfelt feelings be felt. May you have a crystal clear glimpse of your own boundlessness. May you have a crystal clear glimpse of your own insignificance. And may your inner monologue cease. And may you experience stillness. May you experience the beauty of each moment that the bounding mind eclipses. And may you uncover the mystery that hides behind the veil of separation. And may you know true courage. May you know true wisdom. May you know true humility. May you know true truth. May you know yourself intimately, without disguises or distortions. May you meet the world lucidly, without projections or prejudices. And may you perceive the world clearly, without filters or fantasies. And may your delusions disappoint you. May your authenticity astonish you. May everything you have constructed in untruth crumble before your eyes. And may life conspire to unmake every false object you have made. May you live each moment fully, not for the goal of grandiose achievement, but for living itself. Someone else, and may you let yourself be seen by them. May you enjoy